eruv in Perek Vav Mishnah. We've learned until now that there are two kinds of eruvim. There's shituf mavo'ot and eruv Chatzeirot. Okay, let's make a little chart. Here we go. Okay, so we have what's called a mavo'ot. Let's look at our picture for a second. Remember, okay, that each courtyard is called a chatzer, and that those courtyards spill down into a mavo'ot. This is an interesting mavo'ot that was open on both sides, but it doesn't matter. It's called a mavo'ot, and the mavo'ot it joins different courtyards. So in a normal courtyard, this would be closed, and you would have other courtyards, you'd have other Chatzeirot open. But it doesn't matter for our purposes, that's fine. Okay? What's called for a mavo'ot is called shituf mavo'ot. And for a Chatzer, it's called eruv Chatzeirot. So I'm just going to talk about what do you exactly allude to, what do you have to use in order to have a shituf mavo'ot? Because what it's really talking about, what the purpose of the eruv is to say, okay, everybody gives food, and we all put food in somebody's house. Okay, so what we're really saying is, since we're all eating at this guy's house, at least in a theological, halachic sense, then the common area is really b'shita yachid, and that's the purpose of the eruv. It's got to be enclosed first, and then we have a commonality. The same thing is true of the mavo'ot. That if I have food common to the both or all of the inhabitants, all of the Chatzeirot of the mavo'ot, therefore all of this becomes an enclosed area, and you can carry it in between the mavo'ot. That's shituf mavo'ot and Chatzeirot. So the Mishnah says, what happens if I don't make a fictitious partnership, but I really do share food with them? If I have a balabait who's a partner in for shchenim, for his neighbors in the mavo'ot, the Bartanura says sheba mavo'ot, the shem shutfut ba'alma, v'lo l'shem eruv. It's shutafut. Shutafut means of a mavo'ot. Remember our chart. Shutafut of a mavo'ot. Okay? Okay, so we're talking about you want to make a shituf. Lezeh b'yayin v'lezeh b'yayin. Okay, I've got wine. Okay, and we all share wine. Einam tzrichim la'areh. They don't have to make an eruv. Okay, so what's going on? So I have a jug of wine, and we bought into the wine collective together. So the jug of wine, the big bottle of wine, the barrel of wine stays in my house, and then everybody comes over, and he comes over, and he comes over. So therefore, there's a commonality of food without having to make an eruv. So in that case, ein tzrichim la'areh. They don't have to make an arev. Okay, and the Bartanura says, "V'hu shekulam shutafim b'kli achad." That's only if, of course, they're all shutafim with one kli, one big barrel. Meaning, so we have the communal food, so I don't have to make fake communal food. I have real communal food. Says the Bartanura, "Dafka shitufei mavo'ot." That's only shitufei mavo'ot. Havu b'yayin. Could be with wine, because we said b'chol me'arvin u'mishtatfin. You can make the eruv with anything. Okay, so what kind of food can you make? So what kind of sug also can you make for yayin? Hakol. Okay, for example, yayin, you can make it with wine. Let me get back to Hebrew. Here we go. No. Sometimes word is tricky. You can do it with anything. On the other hand, aval eruvei Chatzeirot einu arvin ela b'pat. But eruvei Chatzeirot you can only do with bread. Why? The eruv mishum dirahu. Because normally the idea what they normally do is make the eruv, and it's because of dira, of dwelling, of living. And when a person makes his domicile, his heart is drawn to bread, meaning bread is what's most important. Okay, so therefore, if you did the shituf mavo'ot with bread, that's even better. And therefore, that would be enough. So if the shituf wasn't you all bought this communal, carton of bread, and everybody would come and pick up the bread from the whole mavo'ot, then you don't even have to do eruvei Chatzeirot, because then the whole thing is connected. But if you did with wine, that's not good enough. Then wine would only be for the shituf, but you still have to do an eruv. Okay? Aval im b'shetfut b'yayin or b'shayit v'arev, if you don't do wine or something else, tzrichim la'arev eruvei Chatzeirot. Then you do have to make eruv Chatzeirot. V'ein tzomchin ala shituf. Then shituf is not enough. Why? Kedei shelo tishtakach torat eruv min hatinokot. The Gemara says, the Rambam says, because you don't want people to forget the idea that you have to have a Torah eruv. Because I guess the mavo'ot, shituf for mavo'ot, was less common. It was much more common. People lived in the same courtyard. They knew each other. They interacted with each other, and that's what they would do. But to make between an entire mavo'ot, I guess, was less necessary, less common, even though Chachamim said it was still possible. That's what the Mishnah says. Therefore, if they don't have to do another shituf mavo'ot, but they still have to do eruv Chatzeirot, says the Bartanura. What happens though if here this guy has two kinds of deals? He's got a wine co-op and an oil co-op. The wine co-op he does with this guy. The oil co-op he does with that guy. So therefore there is a commonality, but it's not among everyone. Says the Mishnah, Svichim la'arev. Then they have to make a separate eruv shituf mavo'ot. Rabbi Shimon says, no, echad zeh, ve'echad zeh. In either case, even if they're doing yayin or shemen, there's a separate wine for this guy and shemen for that guy, oil for that guy. Einam svichim la'arev. Because this guy represents a common factor between all the people, that would be enough. But Tunur says, in Rabbi Shimon. We'll stop here. As always, comments and questions, you can email me at my email address, rsporter@gmail.com. And we'll dedicate our learning to the memory of my father, of Simcha ben Yitzchak Halma.